We all talk about being evidence-based, and there's nothing wrong, obviously, with being evidence-based. You want to have evidence, but before there was evidence, there was consistent results from something that we tried, and then we were able to get consistent pattern of results. So it doesn't always have to be evidence-based. It has to be common sense and not injuring the person that you're working with. But, I think if we keep our head in the let's just, what does the research say?
We are about to launch.
Cool. Sweet. What's up, everybody? Truth Not Trends. TNT Strength, Oakland style. In the building. Let me tell you, straight outside the box, changing the world one set at a time. It's been too long since I said all my cool catchphrases. What is going on, people? This is the podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely and efficiently as possible. Possible. My name is Jesse Schmidt. I've been a strength coach for 2,065 days. 2,065. Dude. My name is Liam Bauer, and I have been a strength coach for 35 years and counting. So many spoonfuls of coconut oil in that career he's ingested. It's hard to even count. Amazing. I just throw them right down. Just swallow, swish them around. Just gulp them right down. Just like the creatine right in the mouth. You're going to have to clock back to our earlier episodes to understand that reference, people, which is a good idea because there's great information. That's right. You can go back and listen. There's over 100 of these things by now, dude. And today we got a special treat for you because we're having Erik McKay. Erik McKay, excuse me. That's the correct Scottish pronunciation. Thank you for correcting me there. No worries.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap!
Mr. McKay is here with us in the studio today. He was not here with us in the studio. Virtually. He joined us from Michigan, from Noble Strength, Michigan. And Erik is a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Indeed. He's got, 13? At least 30. He's had a Noble Strength and Conditioning open for 13 years. Yes, incredible. He has an amazing facility. What did he say? It's like over 4,000 square feet. He has quite a collection. Pendulum, Avenger, Pit Shark. Dude, every kind of toy you could possibly want to play with over there. That's right. We had Erik on our podcast in the famous Lost TNT episode back when I had been a strength coach for 737 days. That's right. It's been a while. Several years ago. And we got him back. He also was on our COVID panel back in 2020. So he's been on the TNT podcast a couple times. And today he's back to talk about the no excuses culture. We're going to talk about his journey to lifting the Denny stones, which, if you don't know, those are stones that weigh over 700 pounds combined in Scotland. Yes. Incredible. They're legendary. And he went and he tried his hand at lifting them. He drank a little whiskey, ate some haggis, and tried a little Denny stones. There you go. He's going to tell us all about it. But before we get to that interview, we've got to tell you about couple of our podcast sponsors, starting with Low-Cal Foods. Cali, feed your inner athlete. That's right. People, you're pressed for time. You got things to do, and you got goals to crush. No excuses, all right? So you need to check out Low-Cal Foods Cali because they're going to bring the food to you. They'll deliver it right to your doorstep, or you can pick it up right here in the TNT Strength studio. You can choose from their pre-set, pre-made meals, or you can customize your own. They're going to package them up in single serving, pop them in the microwave meals. All you got to do, I tend to set my microwave for about 90 seconds. I find that that's the correct amount of time. It makes it delicious. Or you set the TNT microwave for 17 minutes. Ironically, our TNT microwave is not efficient. But that's okay. It's still effective. 2 or 3 minutes. There you go. Double your time. You're not so bad. Regardless of how long your microwave takes to heat up your meal, it's going to be a lot faster than going to the store, preparing the ingredients, and cooking the meal yourself. So check out Low-Cal Foods Cal and use the discount code TNT Strength 5 to get 5% off your next order. And just so to keep you from making any more of those excuses about not working out at home, go get yourself the Harambe system, the coolest, most effective home-based band strength training system on the planet, built in the USA with high quality stainless steel and high molecular weight plastic with the patent pending sling system. You got to see it to believe it. You go right to the Harambe store, harambesystem.com. Check it out. And remember, when you visit the Harambe System store, use the code TNT to get 10% off any of the swag they have there available. Sweet! They just came out with their carry bag. You can literally pack every component in there and take it with you anywhere you want to go. This thing could go under your bed, take it on a plane, throw it in the back of your Scooby-Doo van, and while solving mysteries, work out on your way.
Those Scooby-Doo sandwiches, I always wanted to eat one of those. Scooby snacks.
Yeah.
Rocky?
Roll!
Dude! On that note, everybody, please enjoy this interview with Erik McKay.
Sweet!
What are you going to share with us today? What are the top 3 passions that we're going to discuss with No Bull Strength?
I've been on soapbox lately on this whole, and I apologize if you guys are doing this as well, but I'm so sick and fucking tired of the no excuses.
No excuses?
I'm just tired of seeing trainers and others in this field share, like, look at this person, no excuses, blah, blah, blah. Why aren't you? Like, people have excuses because they're not knowledgeable on it. So we have to educate them. And if there's someone particular that you're talking to, in my opinion, when you're talking about no excuses, then go ask them questions and, give them the knowledge they need to make that educated decision. And we're just so much information, we're paralyzed by it. And if it's not a knowledge thing, then it's a confidence thing, I think. They just don't have the confidence to go do it. And the people that tell me that they, I'm sure you guys hear this, I want to get in shape before I come see you.
Oh my God, yeah. That's such a common one.
Okay, well, let's have a conversation around that. Instead of you just telling me that you need to get in shape before you come see me, let's have a conversation around that. And let's try and get to the root of why you are putting off any type of exercise.
Yeah, this is a good one. Let's chew on this one for a minute.
So, it's trying to get to the root of the problem of why it's easy to just say, well, I don't have enough time. Really? Let's go through let's go through things a little bit here. Or, I can't afford it. It's another one. Like, I think that, we can all afford those things that we want. It's just not necessarily a priority. Let's discuss. Again, I'm not trying to be a high pressure, push, because I'm fortunate right now that, I started a waiting list about 1.5 years ago. So, I don't need the clients. I just want to see more people training.
Yeah.
Being healthy.
So what's your feeling, when you do hear these guys pushing that idea of no excuses? Give me an example of, of the worst case scenario of that when you hear it or see it, what it is that you're not liking about it.
I just don't like the whole concept. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the individual that's giving the excuse. It doesn't help them get over the excuse. Oh yeah, shit. He said that means that no excuses. Well, damn, I should probably fucking go train then. I definitely need to start something because that said blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And they're cute and they're funny and we laugh at them. But
so you're talking about kind of like these things, these ones where you see where it's just like, get off your ass and get to it. Like, blah, blah, blah. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Or look at this guy. He's not making excuses.
Oh, that one. I like that one. Like, especially when in this, I don't know, maybe people are going to hate me on this one, but, if someone was, say, born with one leg or one hand or whatever else, and they found a passion, they had to work for that. It's not that they, look at this person over here doing this. No excuses there. That's the way they were born. It wasn't an excuse. That was the way they were born. That's just something they've had to deal with. So yeah, it's no excuses, but I don't know. That's the only thing they knew.
Yeah, if it is, yeah, exactly. If it's a congenital thing, then they've been working on it their entire life, right? So yeah, they don't know anything else. You're born with no fingers on your hand, then that's all you know.
Right. If it's coming from an injury, give them some time to actually acknowledge it. I was working with an individual at one point in time that got in an accident and was in hospital for a while and ended up having to have a limb amputated and wasn't interested in doing anything for a long time. Yeah, I understand. Your life has just been changed dramatically. And I'm supposed to be sitting there saying, no excuses, get back in the gym, let's go, suck it up. How does that help them deal with all of the other shit that's going on that they're dealing with?
Yeah, I think you see people using that, whatever phrase or slogan, no excuses on Instagram, on social media, especially when they're dealing with like mild challenges, like woke up this morning, didn't feel like working out, no excuses, got to get there. It's like, okay, you didn't like just that example that you just gave there of having a limb amputated. I mean, this is like a significant life change, especially in the short term, like negative impact, like negative net impact on your life. It's not the sort of thing that you just, right? Like if you were like depression would be a rational response to that situation.
Right.
We have a guy who's, he's been training with us for a long time. And right now he's had some like really heavy stuff go down in his life recently. And he didn't train for a month and then he showed up and, we only did a handful of exercises in his first workout and he had like lost 20 pounds in a month, and he's not like a big guy. Like he probably had 20 pounds to lose, but obviously when we're coaching somebody to sustainably lose body fat, we're not saying lose 20 pounds in a month. It's more like 4 or 5 pounds in a month, So, he's in a kind of a rough patch, but I definitely wasn't telling him like, you got to get in here. No excuses. I don't care what's going on in your life. Like
no pain, no gain. Let's go.
Yeah. Suck it up, pansy.
I mean, yeah, that's just kind of the reality of life. Sometimes you have to sort of like sit with it being shitty for a little while. And then when you have the bandwidth to get your workouts going again, get them going again. And that's the nice thing about high intensity training is you don't have to get back to working out every day. Right. You just got to go in and work hard one day. And then you could come back a week later, right, and try to work a little harder or just do what you can.
Oh, for sure.
I would be curious if you don't mind sharing some of your strategies for that situation, because pretty much anyone in the personal training industry, new or old, is going to deal with those guys that come in and go, I need to get in shape first, right, before I see you. Like I've literally heard that 100 times, if not more, in my career. So I think this would be a good thing for, because we got trainers at all levels, hopefully listening in, what are some of the things you do or say or the questions you ask, when you get confronted with that one yourself?
And then also maybe even before we get into that, we probably should have you introduce yourself to our audience, Erik.
Who are you? Anyway?
You have been a guest on our podcast previously. There was the famous forgotten episode of TNT. We did a whole interview with Erik very early on, like probably in our first 50 episodes, and we had to scrap it because the audio just didn't come out.
Yeah, which was our fault.
Yeah,
the famous lost episode.
The lost episode. Tell everybody who you are.
Well, what's the conspiracy theory behind that?
Well, I'm going to come up with a good one.
Aliens took over the radio wave.
Area 51.
When I was doing long-term subbing and things of that nature, when kids came in late, I didn't want to hear while I woke up late. I said, give me a story. You were abducted by aliens, your mom, I just come up with something.
The dog ate my homework. So go ahead and tell everybody who you are. Where are you coming from?
I'm Erik.
I'm Erik. And I have a beard.
Erik McKay, Noble Strength Performance, out in Fowlerville, Michigan.
Nice. And how long you been in business out there in Fowlerville, Michigan?
Let's see. January 23 will be 13 for 14 years.
Awesome.
And so the business started from some friends that I had a bunch of equipment in my basement. I moved back into Fowlerville. They started coming over and training with me. We were all kind of training together. He was a football coach. He went back to coaching football in August. His wife was like, hey, if I pay you, will you keep training me? I'm like, fuck yeah. Okay. And so went from there, talked to the wife, and we said, all right, let's if we're going to do it, let's do it. So talked to a lawyer, got LLC, and went through and tried to do everything up nice and proper. And we started out in my 1,400 square foot basement. And then 2 years later,
that's a pretty good sized basement.
2 years later, I bought a 54. It's 54 by 60 pole barn, 52 by 60 pole barn off of Craigslist.
Wow.
They had taken it all apart And I went over and picked everything up and started putting it together, and with some help of some friends over the next 8 months.
You had like a good old fashioned barn raising.
It had good old fashioned barn raising. Most of it, like I had a guy come over and run post holes, put posts in. I had a friend come over. He helped me put the posts in, make sure everything was level and square and yada yada. And then he said, "Okay, this is how you do this and that." So I started running everything and building it from there. When I ran into an issue, contact him up and say, "All right, what do I do here and there?" And he just basically would tell me. I knew I had a lot of construction background anyways, doing heating, cooling, and concrete and electrical and all sorts of things before I started doing this full time. So I just started diligently working on it any chance I got, trying to build this barn up. And by October of 2012, I moved into the barn. I think a year and a half later, I added on another 12 foot by 60 foot long. So now it's 64 by 60.
Wow. And you've amassed quite a collection of toys in there over the years.
Yeah, I have a nice toy box. People are welcome to come and visit my toy box. So yeah, we've got I've got the entire line of Pendulum. I've got 7 or 8 Avenger pieces. Got Pit Shark. Got both Dynavet pieces, Gladiator and Plantaris, which I know they're getting. I believe they've been so busy with the Gladiator, it's been hard to do anything with Plantaris. That's going to be an amazing piece when that comes out. And some old school Nautilus.
And you have some of the iron core, right? The biceps and triceps.
I have the iron core bicep. Yep. And the iron core bicep. I don't know if that's still their favorite color scheme or not. The purple and turquoise, but
you do have some eclectic colors over there at your place.
I like to be able to say, let's go over to the orange machine or the purple machine or the bubble gum.
Unlike Mike Petrell up there, tries to make everything red and black.
Oh, geez. You know, he was so upset with me when I took one of my red and black machines and I sanded all the red off and repainted it. What are you doing? That was a great machine. It was perfect. I'm like, oh, I understand you like red and black. It was disgusting. I needed to get rid of it. I already got one red and black. I can't have another one.
So you can color code your workouts.
Yeah, I can color code them. If I had the money to do it, I would take my Avenger pieces, and I have a bunch of Avenger figurines, and I'd have each Avenger piece painted to match the Avenger figurine.
You could do like go over there to Hulk and then Hawkeye and then
let's go over to Black Widow and then we'll finish up over here on Iron Man.
Nice, that's sweet. I like that.
So back to Liam's original question. It was, should we re-say it?
Yeah. So you had mentioned that that idea, which happens frequently, as we've already said, in the world of personal training, that someone will show up who seems interested, and you'll give them your spiel, whatever that spiel may entail. And a very common response would be, "Oh, I'm not in shape to work with a trainer. Like I need to get in shape first." And so I was asking, what questions or conversations do you have around that? Because that could be enlightening for any new trainer, because everyone's going to hear it at some point.
Right. Everyone. Yeah. I think first thing we'll try and, it's that fine line, because if it's their first time over, you don't want to be pushy. It's like, okay, well, why do you think you need to be in shape before you work with, because I'll be honest, I feel I'm pretty damn good at my job. I don't care how good a shape you're in. I can bury your ass. So let's take you where you're at. If you're interested, let's take you where you're at and start one thing. Because if you start doing too many things at one time, the chances of failure are going to be greater. Instead of changing your diet and starting to work out and adjusting your sleep and, kissing your mom goodnight and all of those, let's start it with one and go from there.
Kissing your mom goodnight delivers performance enhancing benefits.
I'm sure moms would say so.
Warm glass of milk along with it. Yeah, it's kind of like a person coming to you and saying, I want to learn how to drive, but I'm gonna go drive first. Well, you might be doing it all wrong and wasting a ton of time, and it could be dangerous.
Yeah,
but have at it.
Yeah, I mean that it does bring lots of questions to mind. Like, what is your personal plan to get in shape first? Like, what is it that you're planning that you think you need to do that is going to help you prepare for working with us, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think you really have to, there's so much, when a person says that, there's so much being unsaid that, you really, you could unpack it in a many different ways, right? It could be a trust thing where they're just like, I have no idea how much this coach knows, and are they an expert? Are they not an expert? I have no way of determining whether they are or not. So I don't know if I can trust them. You don't usually hear that sort of objection from somebody who's a referral, right? Because as far as trust is concerned, that's why people make referrals, is because they have a deeper level of trust with you, so much that they want their friend or family member to come train with you.
Right, exactly.
And they're probably, another reason they might make that objection is because they just don't know about exercise in general, and they're just like, well, okay, Erik's a strength coach, but why would I need to build strength? I'm a runner or something like
right.
that. I play football. I need to practice my, running patterns. I don't necessarily need to be strong, right? Because they might just be uninformed.
Yeah, and so trying to ask those questions, and so much of it is kind of hard for me to go through because it's got to be that play off of the other person. Like, what are they?
Right. There's not a blanket response. I understand.
Yeah, but just trying to give the general knowledge of how to get started.
Yeah.
Why they're lacking.
Yeah, it's because as soon as you said it, it's like I can't speak for Jesse, but I mean, it just flashes me back to like multiple times that it's come up. Like, oh, I got to get in shape before I work with a trainer. I'm like, that doesn't really make any sense. Like, what is it that you're going to accomplish without me that you haven't already accomplished, right? So now you're suddenly going to be able to accomplish it. Like, why did you come to see me in the first place?
Right. Yeah. Before I go see the physical therapist, I need to rehab this injury.
Yeah. It's like the people, they always brush their teeth before they go to the dentist to get their teeth cleaned, right? But that's, who knows?
If I'm going to go get my teeth cleaned, I'm going to have I'm going to have some popcorn, I'm going to, you're going to earn your money.
Yeah, that's right. Give me something to work on.
I think people who come up with this objection, to use the trans theoretical model of behavior change, right? They're not in the action phase yet. So for anybody listening to this who is unfamiliar, this model of behavior change has several steps in it. So you've got pre-contemplation, step 1, contemplation, right? Then you've got planning, then you've got action, and then you've got maintenance, right? So 5 steps. And a person who says, I think I'm going to go do it by myself before I hire a trainer, they're probably in one of those first couple steps, right? Because they're not ready to take action for whatever reason. They might not even clue you in, because they might not even know themselves why they actually maybe can't come up with a rational reason for why they're not ready to train, whether it's monetary or it has to do with knowledge or whatever it might be, but they're just not ready. So I think for us as coaches and business people, I mean, this is a good time to educate, because you're right. If you're even in the sales situation, like if somebody's in the contemplation or pre-contemplation or even planning phase, you're probably not making a sale right there. That doesn't mean you're not going to make the sale down the road, but this is where if you have like, at TNT, we have a lead magnet, right? So we send people to our website. When they hit the website, a pop-up shows up and it says, hey, subscribe to our email list and get our free nutrition and training guide. So, this is something that can keep people in the loop about what we do and how we do it. So if they're still thinking about it and they want to do it by themselves, well, now they can learn a little bit about how we train at TNT. And, down the road, they may pop back in. We can stay in contact with them.
Another thing that we've discussed in the past is that, like a lot of times with me, like we have, a little paperwork people fill out like PAR-Q, right? But part of it has like a needs assessment on it, which is, asking questions more about their goals and their history with exercise and what they hope to accomplish. And, we have those questions. Like for me, I used to use this all the time when I was seeing a new client. I'd go through these questions, and on the bottom, I'd say like on a scale of 1 to 10, like sort of how ready are you to take action, right? And if they answered anything below a 9, I would literally just tell them, I don't think you're ready. You're not ready to work with me because, you said you're only a 7, right? So, maybe when you feel more motivated, and then a lot of times that's like the trigger for them to change their mind right there. Like, wait, what do you mean I'm not ready? You know what I mean? It's like a little push. And that's okay. And it's okay if they do say, yeah, maybe you're right. Like we actually had a guy call us who had worked with us previously. He called me back like, oh, I'm ready to start back up. But then he was all wishy-washy about it. And then as the conversation progressed, I was like, it sounds to me like you're not really ready to start back up. And he was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Right. And he just sort of, and that's okay. You don't want someone who's not in, right?
Right. Yeah.
They have to be ready to commit to it, or else, you don't want to be wasting your time with like people that are sitting on the fence.
Right. Or as I've had conversations in the past with clients that, it's like, you've been missing a lot more recently, your workouts are coming in. Well, I don't have this. I just don't have the energy, or just little things. It's like, what, trying to get to the point of what's going on. And hopefully I've built the relationship with them. For me, it's the most important thing over anything else, is having that relationship, almost to be able to ask them those questions and the tough questions and get to the truth of the matter. It's like, look, sometimes it's like, you know what, maybe you just need a break. I don't want to take your money. So you're coming in here and half-assing it. And then I'm trying to get something out of you and you're refusing, or just saying that's it. And I know that you worked harder than this in the past.
I don't usually I don't like to train people if they're in any way compromised. Like when people call me and, they go, I feel like I'm catching a cold, or like I'm not feeling whatever. And I usually go, just don't come in. You know what I mean? And like other trainers would go like, why would you do that? Like they could just do a light day, or you know what I mean? Or we can do a stretching only or whatever. But I kind of feel like you. I mean, I could do that. And if they really want to, that's okay. But like I don't want to take their money if they're like, like I'm not going to stand next to somebody while they walk on the treadmill and then like, chat with them and then say, okay, pay me. They don't need me for that kind of stuff. Like we want them to gain something from the time that we spend together, or else, why are they spending it? So I'm always like, just take a day off. Don't like have an easy day. Take a day off if you're feeling like you don't have it.
Yeah. Sometimes they come in and they're talking like that, and we end up going through their workout. And it's the best workout they've had in forever.
Yeah, that does happen for sure.
If it's a sickness or something, then I might say stay home. But personally, I'm not. I'll do whatever, within reason. We'll chit chat about it, and if it's just a body weight day or whatever it may be, we'll deload a little bit and go from there.
We did I think this ties in a little bit, where we talked about the sort of differences between discipline, motivation, and habits, and one of the things that we were saying is that there are these sort of different personalities, especially on social media, that have like firmly, like latched onto one of these concepts. Like one of the examples I used was like David Goggins. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a former Navy SEAL, and he's an endurance athlete, and he very much like falls into that camp of like the no excuses, and he like he'll always have these videos of like himself running, telling a story about, because like now he's like this celebrity and people just reach out to him for like, he says that he's about discipline and not motivation. All right. So he'll tell a story like, my buddy calls me up and he told me that he wants to go on a 10-mile run with me. So I said, okay. And so the morning rolls around and we're going to go out running. And I get a call from him and he says, let's run tomorrow because it's raining. So I told him, I'm going to run 10 miles today in the rain, and you can run with me 10 miles tomorrow, but I'm still going to do it. Right. So that sort of thing, like it doesn't, like weather doesn't stop him. Injuries don't stop him. Right. He's, he just gets after it. And he's written a couple books where he talks, he gives you all the gory details about, running on broken shins and feet, beat to shit and all this stuff. So, he's very much a disciplined person. Then you got the motivation people, right? You got the motivational speakers who you watch their 10, 20, 30 minute TED talk or whatever it is. And you feel all fired up and you're motivated. And then you got other people like James Clear is the person we talked about when we did our episode, who, really believe that you sort of have to build this system for yourself, where you're not really relying on, because discipline and motivation, right? They take energy, right? To sort of execute on a regular basis. But habits are just sort of the program that's running in the background, right? So if you can build these habits, then it feels like they happen effortlessly. So what we were positing in that episode is that every individual person sort of has this different breakdown of how they operate best between discipline, habits, and motivation. And I use myself as an example. Like I'm probably like, I don't know, like 75% habits. Like I have worked hard to the point where I have pretty good nutritional habits and sleep habits and, hydration. And I don't really miss workouts, and it doesn't feel like it's work for me. It's just how it goes. And then I have the mornings where I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do any of this stuff today. And then so, there's like 15% discipline there. And then I do like, reading and listening, and watching videos motivate me sometimes. And so that's like the last 10%, But for other people, like maybe for David Goggins, it's like every single morning he feels like he doesn't feel like, getting out of bed. So it's like 90% discipline and 5% motivation, 5% habit, right? So everybody's got this like different breakdown of what works best for them. So I feel like coming full circle back to that like no excuses thing, that might work for some people, right? For some people, but it probably is not going to be something that works for every person. And every person, at least sometimes, deserves some empathy in situations like your client you mentioned who had to get a limb amputated. Hopefully they get themselves to a point where they can come back and, train regularly and make the best of, what their like physical situation now. But like in the moment, like taking a beat to just like kind of accept what the hand that life has dealt them seems like a reasonable way to go.
What are your thoughts on the no excuses stuff? We had touched on it earlier, but just to come back on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's can't remember who said it. There was a quote about umbrella statements. No umbrella statement is true, including this one or something like that. And you can't put everyone under an umbrella. So like you said, yeah, there's going to be some people that really does motivate them. That gets them going. The no excuses, let's go, suck it up. That'll get them going. But I find for the majority of people, the average person, it's not going to do anything for. And that's what I'm kind of, I'm just an average person, just a dipshit in a barn.
Yeah, I remember I've used this story in the past, but I mean, I spent, a number of years working with like these high level mixed martial arts guys, and it's like they're sort of, hyper masculine, super driven, very, strong, athletic, focused, whatever. And I was around that population a lot. And then I, for several years, and then I sort of transitioned back into sort of more like, general population, right? And I'd be with these like, little like business women or something. And I'd be going like, come on, Brian, and then they'd be like, I just want you to tell me I'm doing well. I was like, oh yeah, who am I talking to? I was like stuck in like dealing with these macho guys that needed to be like screamed at, and like I had to readjust my whole sort of demeanor, and remember like who the audience was and all that. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I don't need to be. Come on, you pansy.
That's the fun part about where I'm at. Like just before we got on, I finished up training an 85-year-old couple. And then this afternoon I'll go out and I'll train a college athlete and a middle-aged couple, and then I'll finish off with another high school vet.
Yeah, and that's part of the art of personal training is learning how to make those adjustments when, and and to create the right way of speaking for each client. That's the connection that comes out of lots of practice and experience, and you are able to make those adjustments and know which one needs to be nurtured more, which one needs to be pushed a little more.
That chameleon of coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which is what we talked about in the Lost episode, Erik.
The famous Lost episode. If you can find the episode, we will give you a prize. We'll go out and find it. It could be buried on a desert island. And if you can, we'll make it like a giant thing where people will start searching the internet for clues,
Is it with all the Atari games?
Yes. Yeah. The famous E.T. game. You know about that, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's where the Lost episode is. It phoned
it's
home.
Right near next to the E.T. games.
Hey, what are those guys doing here? Whenever I feel like I'm stalling out on my bench press, I know I need a new strength curve.
Whether you're stalling out on the road or stalling out in the gym, you need something with great engineering.
That's right. And
So
I
look
want
for the pendulum.
Pendulum. Not just your average strength machines.
No, they have smooth strength curves.
Amazing rigidity.
And did we mention the engineering's fantastic?
That's right. Not to mention, they come in cool colors.
Like red.
And silver. Well, that was kind of weird. What was that all about? Back to the interview.
So Erik, you recently took a shot at lifting the Denny stones. You want to talk about your journey? What up? No, not so much. That's cool.
That's fine. It's cool. Yeah, I failed. It was interesting. My wife and I were planning a trip to Scotland. She just recently had a birthday, and so for her birthday, I wanted to surprise her with a trip to Scotland. But before that, I decided I should probably tell her, because the trip to Scotland is that's a pretty big deal, and that was my first time out of the country, first time actually taking like a real vacation.
Wow, that's awesome. It's a great adventure.
I was trying to find some land to buy and move Noble over to Scotland.
Yeah, nice.
I'm sure it's gorgeous. I'm sure it's gorgeous out there.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So once we decided, and I told her, hey, what do you think about this idea of going to Scotland? I had been doing some ancestry stuff. My great 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 grandfather was born in Scotland. Then they all migrated from Scotland to Nova Scotia, and then down into Michigan. And she's a huge Outlander fan, so I've heard of that before. So I thought, all right, let's see. So she was very good with the idea of going to Scotland, and she took the reins and started planning it. I'm like, well, Scotland's pretty famous for their lifting stones, and they've got these Denny stones. I wonder what the hell. So I started doing some more research. I've honestly never really trained that way. I've never been a big deadlifter. I squat, but I enjoy it. I'm kind of built for it. I do well with it. Then I quit straight bar squatting because I got the power squats and I feel better on those. So I started doing some research on stone lifting and the Denny stones and stuff. And I'm like, well, you know what? What the hell? I'm going to be there. Let's give it a shot. So in order to lift the Denny stones, you actually have to have an appointment. And they will only do like a couple Saturdays, 2 Saturdays a month or whatever, where they'll take 5 or 6 people that have qualified. Because you have to be able to qualify, and you have to send a video of you being able to deadlift or rack pull from 20 inches at least 660 pounds. Because the Denny stones weigh 714 and a half pounds, or 700.
Right, the combined weight. So it's 2 different stones.
733 pounds. 2 different stones. 733 pounds, just over that. The heavy stone is 414 and a half, right around there, and the light stone is 318 and a half, right around there. I went and I got these pins with some rings to start lifting, and then I started doing more research on it. I found a gentleman who's actually the oldest person to successfully lift the Denny stones at 57 years old. He lives in Scotland and he's a metal worker, so he created these pins and rings that are the rings are very similar, if not right on, to the rings on the actual stones. So because the big stone has a big, thicker ring, and the little stone has a smaller diameter ring, and it's a little oblong.
So it was like able to create a little bit more specificity in the training.
A little bit more specificity in the training there. You can load the pins up, but then obviously stones are very different once you get there. For me, never ever lifting stones like that before. Outside, if I'm doing a stone wall or some type of stone work, I might move stones around, but never like manhood stones, talking 200-pound stones, lifting up, sitting down, or trying to get the chest, or trying to get the shoulder. And the Denny stones are obviously different than the manhood stones around Scotland, and they're all over the place over there. And I think Ireland has some. And
Eric, can you tell us a little bit about the what are the Denny stones? Why do people lift them? Like, can you give us a little bit of the history of it so our listeners understand?
Denny stones are heavy ass stones. They were used in, I believe it goes that they were used in the building of the Potarch Bridge in Scotland or somewhere around there. I believe it was used in the building of the bridge, and they were used as like counterbalances, from my understanding, to help move other stones into place and things of that nature. And the story goes that Donald Denny, who was the one, I thought he was the bridge builder, but now I've heard story, can't remember the name of I think Rogue did a nice little documentary on like stone lifting. And so it went into the actual gentleman that found the Denny stone in like the early 1950s. Because they were lost. Donald Denny was an old strongman, and he carried the stones across the Potarch Bridge, which is like 17 and a half feet.
Which is crazy.
So he did a farmer's walk with 730 pounds.
Well, that was in the 1800s, so it was probably significantly heavier than that, because the stones, for the most part, are outside in the rain. So the rain and water and everything, they're weathered. So, so at this point in time, I think there are close to 240 people that have successfully lifted the stones to the specifications. You're not allowed to use any lifting aids, wrist straps, or anything like that. You can wear like a wrist brace to help tighten your wrist up. You can wear a lifting belt. You can wear knee sleeves. That's it. No actual wraps or anything else.
Right.
So essentially, lifting the Denny stones is this worldwide, like, strong man, not event, but like challenge.
Yeah, like a rite of passage.
kind of like a rite of passage challenge type thing. Absolutely. I mean, there's been talking to some of the individuals that they're there. They've watched. Well, he was one of the first ones to ever lift. Jim Splain was one of the first ones to lift the stones back in the 50s.
Jim Spleen?
Splain, I believe. And then another gentleman there. They've watched all the lifts since like 2008. He's judged every lift. And so this gentleman, Brett, he shows you how to kind of set up. Here's how you're going to do it. And da 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 da. And then he's just then all of a sudden make sure you get this, make sure you get that. And then he pops up. Like he's lifted the stones well over 400 times.
Wow.
Just like makes it look like it's nothing. So very early on, it's an amazing community because as I started lifting these stones, I would hashtag Denny Stone training on Instagram, and all these individuals that have successfully lifted the stones or were training to lift the stones started following me. I followed them back, and they'd message me, or I'd message them, ask them a question, and it was just an amazing community of people helping each other try and reach this goal of successfully lifting the Denny Stone.
Yeah, well, I mean, 240 people into 8 billion on the planet. I mean, that's
240 since 1950s, I believe.
I mean, that is just, it's like, that's less people, I think, that then become master sommeliers.
Right, like so over the 70 years or something. There's even been...
and there's 9 women who successfully lifted them.
Yeah, I was going to say,
wow.
There's been some women that I was just about to say, there's been some women that's done it. I've seen that. It's amazing.
I believe the first one, was Jan Todd.
Oh, yeah.
She out of, in 1979.
Yeah.
So how long? I mean, I remember watching your training videos on Instagram. That was really awesome. I mean, tell us about the lead up to lifting the stones. Like, what was that training like? And I think you had an injury at one point, right? And so you had to take a little break.
I was a dumbass. I was getting into it so much, and it was I just kept telling myself, you can't afford to take this time off. You can't afford to rest. You got to work. You got to train today. And so yeah, I had a couple things. I had was doing deadlift, and it was one of the heavier deadlifts that it was the heaviest deadlift I had ever done at the time. I don't know, it was right around 640, 650 pounds or something. So I was getting close to meeting the 660 that I needed, and I pulled it up off the ground, and I was kind of celebrating, training all out in the barn by myself, celebrating a little bit. And I don't know if I let loose something that I should have let loose and relax. I ended up with a sternoclavicular strain.
That's an interesting injury. Basically like the front of your neck, upper pec area.
Yeah, upper pec where the sternocleidomastoid comes down into, the upper part by the neck rather than the lower part, the AC joint.
So were you still holding on to the weight at that point, or had you put the weight down and you're like throwing your hands up to celebrate? Like,
oh no, I was celebrating with my hands on the bar, and I came up and I was like, oh, kind of excited, and I'm like, I felt something, like immediately put it down. I'm like, ooh, oh. That didn't feel good. That's not right. And a good friend of mine is an athletic trainer, and I'm like, hey, I get on my app and I'm looking, and I'm like, I find the little joint and I find exactly where the pain was and everything. I'm like, hey, I think I may have just da 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 da. And he's like, well, you could have done that, or you could have possibly popped your first rib. You should go up in that area, up in the soft point above the collarbone, and push in there. And if it's really painful, then you pop your first rib. I'm like, shit, no, pop the first rib. No. So I'm like going up in there carefully and like pushing around. I'm like, all right, no pain. So just did this. He's like, all right, take 2 weeks off, no upper body, and go from there. So I took a few days off.
Instead of a few weeks?
Not the 2 weeks. not the 2 weeks, because again, I'm thinking to myself, I've got to be able to do this. It's 733 pounds. I got to keep going, because my grip, I've never trained my grip that much. So this was training my grip a ton, and then just getting used to lifting that much weight.
I mean, just for reference, like I think of myself as a relatively strong person, but probably my max deadlift is maybe like, I don't know, around 400 pounds, maybe a little over 400 being generous. So 730 pounds is damn near double my, heaviest deadlift. So that's a lot of stress on the body.
Yeah, I've actually never deadlifted more than like 315. I'm only 5'7" though, and I weigh about $160. So,
so
Eric's bigger than me, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm riding high right now at about 6 foot, about 330.
So you're training regularly, weekly at least, and you've had an injury, but you trained, right? You recovered, trained through it. You get to Scotland, and you said that lifting the Dinny stones, because basically what you were doing was you had these hooks attached to a stack of plates, right? And that's how you were training to deadlift the Dinny stone. So how is it different when you're actually there and the stones are in front of you? Like, walk us through that, like in the moment. What did you go? Because I'm sure that was like 10 seconds that felt like the centuries.
It seems like when I remember watching the video, it looked like one of them you picked up and the other one you didn't. That's what it looked like, at least.
So there's two ways to do the stones. Most people that lift the stones do a staggered stance, standing over the stones with the stones between their legs, more of a kind of like a Jefferson deadlift, if you're familiar with that type of thing. And so I had trained and I just could not get comfortable with that. I jacked my knee up a little bit doing I was training heavy 3 days a week, plus throwing in Dinny stone lifting at the end of some of my training. I've got the pendulum power squat with the XT arm. So I was working a little different than high intensity training that I was normally doing. I was working, low reps and for a couple sets. So I'd work my way up to 1,000 pounds, 1,050 pounds on the Power Squat Pro for, 4 or 5 reps, get off of that, go do my upper body stuff, and then go try and lift the stones and, see where I was at and hold for as long as possible, get used to that uncomfortable feeling in the hook grip. And then after a while, you realize that talking to people, like there's nothing there. There's no like equipment to go warm up on before you lift 733 pounds. Like basically you have those two stones. Yeah. So you can take bands or you can do different things to try and get yourself warmed up as much as possible. And you might be able to lift one of the stones, the light stone and then the heavy stones type of thing.
And now you're there and the guy gives you a quick overview and he's able to do it. So it makes it look easy. How many other people were there? How many other people were there attempting that day when you were there?
There were myself and 3 others.
Cool.
So 2 from Canada.
Was anybody successful?
There are 2 successful lifts and 2 failures. Yeah, you can take bands or different things, which I didn't take. A couple other people had bands, so I warmed up with their stuff. And then I tried the staggered stance, which I hadn't been training for. And that's the video that I ended up posting. It was my best attempt. I got the big stone up, which was shocking. That was shocking to me because really I thought I had the strength to do it all. I thought it was going to be my grip. However, we were there on vacation and, this was day 13 in Scotland, all of vacation stuff and walking and up and down stairs, hills and everything else. I didn't train at all while I was in Scotland. I just kind of let everything go. I really enjoyed myself because first and foremost, I was in Scotland to see Scotland and enjoy time with my wife, just the 2 of us. So it was disappointing that I didn't lift them successfully, but I don't know.
Is there another option for doing it other than the staggered stance? Like, is there a way for them to set them up for you to do sort of the way you were training was sort of like almost like a trap bar deadlift position?
Yeah. And so that's the way I've been training. And the gentlemen were like, well, you could do that, but this is definitely easier to do the staggered stance like this. And so I'm like, all right, what the hell? I've done enough of this. I'll try that. I'll try the staggered stance. And he gave a little tips to how you got to do it because obviously the stone is different than the weight plates. The weight plates are equally distributed among the pin and you just come straight up. The stone, it's got a lighter end and a heavier end and it's oblong and it's, triangle shape. And then the other one is different. And so he gave a little, do this, do that. And I got in there and couldn't really tell from the video. I feel like I got the big stone all the way up, but the little stone, I couldn't get it to budge, which was just funny to me that it went that way.
Yeah. Because it looks like from the video I saw, it looked like you were able to pick up the big one pretty cleanly. And, that's like, that's 400 pounds with one hand. It seems pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
And then the other one just wouldn't budge, but I just my grip felt great that day. My legs just felt done. They were just done. But, it is what it is. My wife and I just celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary a couple days ago.
Congratulations.
And we're actually looking at going back to Scotland. Part of our trip to Scotland was doing this Outlander tour, seeing different parts of Scotland where Outlander was filmed. And one of the areas was this like 1500, 1600 church, and where the two main characters got married. Well, this church is still up and running. So we're looking at, we're thinking about going back over and renewing our vows.
Nice.
Hell yes.
It's awesome.
2024 on our 20th anniversary in Scotland.
That's
cool.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Denny Stones, the day, maybe a couple days after you arrive.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but it sounds to me like you were definitely overtraining. Also, I mean, if you're, Denny Stones is probably like, obviously it's got to be the main focus. Like doing it at the end of your other workout probably wasn't the best option. You probably need to like have a separate day over that's all you do, and just work on that, just because it's so specific.
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, throughout my training, everything seemed to be going fairly well. I was tired. There were times, so I'd take time off or I'd take a break or whatever. But after actually being there and seeing the stones and attempting it, I'm looking back at my training, I'm able to look back on it with a clearer lens and realize, oh yeah, I did this, I did that. I should have done more of this. I should have done less of that. So took some time off once I got back from Scotland. I didn't train for maybe once every couple weeks. I'm starting to get back into it the last 2 to 3 weeks. Finally, it was beating the crap out of my body for the Denny Stones and doing everything like that. So I just took some time to get back into the swing of things and get back into business. And
yeah, it's tricky too, because the actual like sport skill that you're training requires you to lift a shitload of weight, right, for one rep. So it's not like you're, I'm not taking a jab at golfers, but if you're swinging, like, right, you can swing a golf club hundreds of times and, it's just chipping away at your level of energy a little bit at a time, right? But when you're attempting a deadlift for most human beings, I'm sure there are some human beings at 700 pounds, 600, 700 pounds, there's nothing, right? If you're deadlifting over 1,000, that's only, 70% of your 1 RM. Probably do that for reps, but for most human beings, even like that weight's just not going to even come off the floor. And so even attempting it is going to take a big chunk out of your available energy for that day and that week for that matter.
Yeah. I was, even though I got 3 lifts, you get 3 attempts. And again, oddly enough, I think my last attempt was my best one. I'm like exerting this energy. And then I believe my last attempt was my best one, so, and after that, like the day just went so fast. The time there at the Stones, all of a sudden we're eating dinner. Another great thing about being over there is I finally got to meet Peter and Brian Collins in person.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Did you go to the gym?
Did not go there. We spent all our time in Scotland. They came up to Scotland and visited with us the first weekend, and then Peter and Brian came up. They drove up, insane, great guys. They drove up 5 hours one way to watch me lift the Denny Stones.
That's awesome.
Had dinner with us, and then they drove back because they had to be back to work the next day.
So for our listeners, that Peter and Brian Collins are the owners of Strength Therapy in Salford in the UK.
Yeah, they awesome.
own an amazing strength training studio and probably have the best collection of equipment in the UK. And they're great guys. We had them on our podcast as guests back on episode 114 if you want to. And they're hilarious too. They're police officers that are just
they're fun guys. Yeah, that was very cool of them to do that, man. And they had mentioned to me, when we were talking, they had mentioned, we're going to go up and cheer for Erik, so that was very cool that's great.
And then another individual, David Voss Bass, I believe. He just someone found me I think on Facebook. He lives right in Scotland, so he came up also and watched, and got a chance to meet him in person as well. And another great guy. So all in all, it was an amazing time. Learned a lot, and so now as I prepare to go back in 2026, for and successfully lift the stones.
There you go.
Well, Eric, we're proud of you that that you would. I mean, I think it's a pretty incredible feat. I'm grateful that you posted your sort of training, regimen leading up to the Denny Stones, because that's the behind the scenes stuff. Like you took an intelligent approach of trying to mimic the Denny Stones as closely as you possibly could. Like you said, there's just no way. I mean, maybe you go out and you're trying to find some heavy rocks and out there in Fowler
and drill some holes and put some screws and some little rings in there.
I've got some heavy rocks. I'm trying to find a few more because while I was there leading up to the Denny Stones, we one day we watched Highland Games Festival. It's the 170th year in a row that they did the Highland Games Festival in Potarch.
You see the cable toss?
Saw the whole thing. From there, we were driving up to Inverness, and there were a couple manhood stones on the way. So we stopped, and I did successfully chest a manhood stone, 225 pounds, first time ever doing that. The next stone we stopped at, because I didn't know shit about lifting stones, I had my arms bent, and I was basically, like, as I was coming up, I was basically bicep curling, 225 pounds, between the squat and everything else. So my biceps were absolutely fried. So the next stone I got to, I was able to get it up and lap it. That was about 228 pounds. I got it in my lap in a rock-ass bottom squat, and that was it. My arms were toasted. So I've learned now, hands underneath, arms stay straight, and, I've been learning how to pick up the stones and whatnot.
Yeah. All that stuff has technique.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, listen, thanks for coming on and sharing your thoughts, especially about those two. Especially recapping the Denny Stone stuff. That was awesome. But I thought it was great to address that idea of the no excuses, and also the idea of the people saying they need to get in shape first before they train. That's always a funny one.
Congratulations on your anniversary, and we're looking forward to seeing your next training regimen and Denny Stones lifting.
Oh, all right. I'll keep posting.
Yes, do it. We love it.
All right, Eric, say hi to everybody for us.
All right. Appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Boom, baby! What's up, people? Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Truth Not Trends.
That's right here at TNT Strength Headquarters, Truth Not Trends.
Please, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And don't forget to share with a friend.
You can find us on the web at tntstrength.com.
That's right, TNT Strength now coming to you in person at 5255 College Avenue in Oakland, California. You can call the studio 510-768-5421. You can also text us at 855-796-9905.
Or shoot us an email at contact@tntstrength.com. And whatever you do, stay off of that stupid blue bubbly bosun.
Oh, God. Here's Cappy. It's all over.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
Dude!
Sweet.